Laurie Cardoza-Moore, and this is Focus on Israel. Hello, and thank you for joining me today on Focus on Israel. I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, and like most Americans, I began to ask a lot of questions about what happened to our country following 9/11. As I read and talked to experts, the issues of radical Islam and the attacks on America and Israel became extremely personal to me. In response, I founded Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and sharing the message of Christian biblical responsibility to the people and land of Israel against the rise of a new anti-Semitism. In this series, Focus on Israel, I wanted to share with you what I've learned through my research and meetings with experts in their respective fields. I believe that it is so very important that at this critical time in history, we must turn our focus on Israel. Today we'll be focusing on another area of major controversy. Should there be a Palestinian state? With the world pushing Israel to help create another terrorist state, what would such an entity look like? While in Israel recently, I had the opportunity to speak with Yoram Ettinger, a retired Israeli ambassador and former minister in charge of congressional affairs at the Israeli embassy in Washington. He gave me a realistic look at Israel's future if this new state is created.
Should there be a Palestinian state, it would deal a dramatic blow to vital American interests. This is not merely an Israeli issue. It's also a very, very dire American concern, because a Palestinian state would basically doom the current pro-American Hashemite regime in Jordan. There is a classic zero-sum game in the Middle East, and it is before the Hashemite regime on one hand and the Palestinian people on the other hand. Should there be an independent Palestinian state west of the Jordan River, it would doom to oblivion the Hashemite regime east of the river. The U.S. invested, in my mind, justly, a lot of resources to do away with the Saddam regime in Iraq. However, a Palestinian state would provide a very substantial tailwind to the pro-Saddam elements in Iraq. The Palestinian people, the so-called good cop PLO, the so-called bad cop Hamas, all of them were staunch supporters of Saddam during his wars against the U.S. in 1991 and in 2002. A Palestinian state would bode well for the anti-American elements in Iraq. Why should America support such a state? The good cop, so to speak, in the Palestinian Authority, Abu Mazen Mahmoud Abbas, speaks Russian fluently. He speaks Russian fluently because he's a graduate of KGB courses. He's a graduate PhD of Moscow University. That's the reason he was the go-between the PLO and the ruthless communist regimes in East Europe and in Moscow before the dismantling of the Soviet Union. Until today, he maintains intimate contacts with Moscow, with the regime in Moscow. Should there be a Palestinian state, it would further facilitate the already concerning, worrisome Russian penetration into the Middle East. It would provide the Russians foothold in the eastern flank of the Mediterranean at the expense of very important American interests, at the expense of stability in the region. The same thing applies to North Korea. as well as China and probably Iran as well. And certainly when one talks about the valiant American war against global terrorism, against Islamic terrorism, the track record of the good cop and the bad cop among Palestinians suggests that a proposed Palestinian state would simply be another terror regime in the Middle East. You look at Abu Mazen Mahmoud Abbas, he was expelled from Egypt in the 50th for subversion. He had to run away from Syria in 66 because of subversive activities. He was expelled from Jordan in 1970 because he was trying to topple the Hashemite regime in Jordan. He was kicked out of Lebanon by Israel and then by Syria because of causing series of civil wars in Lebanon, and he collaborated, Abu Mazen, along with Arafat, with Saddam's invasion of Kuwait in 1980, and that's the reason that Arab states shower Abu Mazen with rhetoric, but with very, very scarce resources. They are aware of the subversive potential of Abu Mazen as well as of Mahmoud Abbas. Why would the US provide a tailwind to another terror state in the Middle East, especially in view of the current upheaval in the Arab part of the Middle East? Last and not least, ever since the Palestinian Authority was established at the end of 1993, there has been a surge in the flight of Christian Arabs away from Bethlehem, Beit Jalla, Ramallah, Beit Sahur, the previously very strong Christian enclaves in Judea and Samaria. Christians used to be majority in Bethlehem. Today, they are a meager 15% minority. Similar reality in Ramallah, which used to be a Christian town. Today there are more Christian refugees from Bethlehem and Beit Jalla in Belize in Central America than Christians left in Beit Jalla and Bethlehem. Why should the US reward a regime which has oppressed Christians and has triggered a flight of Christians away from the area? And certainly a Palestinian state would add another anti-American vote in the UN. Why would the US on one hand fight terrorism, trying to bolster the Hashemite regime in Jordan, fight Saddam Hussein, fight global Muslim terrorism, try to minimize Russian influence in the Middle East, but with the other hand, provide the Russians and the bad guys with another foothold in the Middle East?
Thank you for joining us on Focus on Israel. I hope you're enjoying our program and are inspired to get involved. I'll be speaking in several communities in Florida this July. We'll be discussing the indoctrination of our children through their textbooks and on college campuses across the state. So please join me for these important events. For more information, please go to pjtn.org. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and the State of Israel. Our next video features Walid Shubat, a former Palestinian terrorist who converted to Christianity. He gave me an inside look into the radical world of Islamic terrorism and the push by all Palestinian organizations to destroy Israel and the Jewish people.
Unable to win militarily, Israel's enemies turned to a tried and true tactic of using the oldest hatred by creating a country that never existed, Palestine, and a new group of refugees, the Palestinians. The Arabs turned the world upside down and made the world's most persecuted people into persecutors. These Palestinians, who had fled Israel during the war, claimed rights to the land and became perpetual pawns of the Arab world in their agenda to destroy Israel and the Jewish people.
Anti-Semitism is still live and well, and the Holocaust never really ended. Simply put, that the victims decided to establish their state and their homeland, and then they decided to do the worst thing in the world. They decided to defend themselves. And when they defended themselves, The world objected. How dare you defend yourself? Open your windows and open your doors so the enemy can come and destroy you forever. The Holocaust never ended.
The perception through Islamists' eyes is simple. The infidel powers gave a country to a people whom God had abandoned on land that had been in Islamic hands for almost 1,400 years. This violated the fundamentalist Muslim theology doctrine of sacred space. Under this centuries-old law, any land that is occupied by Muslims becomes Islamic for all time. It is strictly forbidden to give up any claims to it.
Many of the Arabs claim, and many of the Arab Muslims claim this land because of a principle in Islam that says that any land that is controlled by Islam or Muslims must one day return to Islam and Muslims. And so that's the principle that many people see. And that's underlying much of the nationalistic arguments about the Palestinian claim to the land of Israel is really an Islamic claim to the land, that one day they would reclaim this land. And that's really what many of the Muslims are trying to get with Spain, with Europe. They're trying to reclaim what they had captured one time before.
The days of judgment shall not come to pass until the tribes of Islam kill the tribes of Israel. In Jerusalem and the surrounding nations, the trees will cry out, the stones will cry out, there's a Jew hiding behind me. Come, O Muslim, come and kill him. So the studies of the ends of times, according to Islamic theology, was permeating throughout the whole Middle East, that the reason the Jews came to this land, that we were about to destroy them all.
From the Muslim perspective, there are only two solutions: the elimination of Israel, and ideally, the slaughter of all Jewish Israelis, or the wholesale conversion of Israeli Jews, thus bringing the land back within the fold of Islam.
Their objective is not to have a two-state solution with somewhat different borders than Israel wants. When they talk about occupied Palestine, they mean Tel Aviv. They want to destroy the Jewish state. Ahmadinejad is explicit about it in Iran. It is explicit in Hamas's charter. It is explicit every way one can think of in what Hezbollah says and does.
In most of Islamic society, the mainstream press portrays Jews in the vilest terms. National TV channels beam out soap operas based on the protocols of the Elders of Zion, and schools teach the hatred of Jews as part of normal formative education. One Saudi newspaper suggested that hatred of all Jews is justifiable, and textbooks encourage Muslims to engage in jihad to vanquish Jews.
And Al-Azhar University of Egypt, the #1 university for Muslim scholars that graduates Muslim clergy all throughout the Middle East, issues an edict, a fatwa, that it is permissible for a Palestinian to kill themselves in one condition, when they are killing Jews in Israel. Even though Islam in itself condemns suicide, there's a special edict that you can now kill Jewish civilians. The footage was taken in Ramallah when two Israeli reservists got lost in Ramallah. And instead of the fine Arab treatment of love thy neighbor and treat the stranger well, they have taken them, and the entire community of Ramallah went there, and they demanded the death of these two Jews just because they were Jews. A video is worth 1,000 academia. You see it in the footage where a Palestinian finally has Jewish blood in his hands. He shows them in the window. The whole world sees it. You see when the bodies are dumped from the window. You see when the Palestinians and the people of Ramallah, the men of Ramallah, entire capital of Palestine are there. Jabbing on the faces and the heads and gutting these people and tearing them apart. And they're jumping with joy like it's winning the lottery. So they were killed. And they take their cell phones and they contact their wives as they're killing them, describing the process of what they're doing to them. Here is the Palestinian capital, Ramallah. This is the capital of the state of Palestine that the world is forcing to create. And then you see collaborators killed with their guts out, put in a platter. And the children and the men are grabbing the hearts and the kidneys and the intestines, and they're praising Allahu Akbar, in a euphoric fashion, in a joyful fashion, in a frenzy fashion. This is why I always say a video is worth 1,000 academia. For all these years in the West, The media keeps talking about, oh, we should establish a Palestinian state. The Palestinians have been mistreated in Lebanon. The Palestinians have been mistreated in Jordan. They've been mistreated in Israel. They've been mistreated everywhere. We need to establish a state for this. As now, the Palestinians have become the Holocaust. And the Holocaust is a myth. The Holocaust is denied by Mahmoud Abbas, denied by King Hussein, denied by every single prominent Arab leader, as never existed. We only have a Palestinian Holocaust. Everything turns into reverse.
With foolish reluctance, Israel has agreed to the creation of a Palestinian state, subject to some security conditions, such as recognizing Israel's right to exist.
The problem in the East is that the West thinks the East thinks like the West. So they say, okay, Western mind says, let's give them a good gesture. Let's give them some land. Let's give them Jericho. Let's give them Gaza. Let's move the Jewish communities from Gaza. They don't belong there anyway. Let's pull these people out. So they force all these communities, they dismantle Jewish communities in the heartland of Judea. And they give them the greenhouses. And the American Jews put millions and millions of dollars in beautifying these places for them. It's, here's a gift. Here's a gesture of peace from Israel, from the Jewish people. Because the Jews also think that the world thinks like them. And that's their biggest problem. And what do they do with them? They burn the whole place. They burn the synagogues. Not only that, they go to every Jewish holy place and they desecrate it. They go to Joseph's tomb and they start chiseling on the stones. They burn the place. They paint the dome green. Now it's become even a mosque. Why are the Palestinians acting in such a fashion towards these good gestures? Because what the Westerns don't understand is that it's not a war over land. This is not a war over land. What they want is what you see them doing to Joseph's tomb. What they want is what you see them doing to the greenhouses and the communities that were given to them in Gaza. They want the destruction of everything Jewish. They want the destruction of everything Christian, to the point that they even go to the place where Jesus was born and they desecrate that place as well. And the world community and the Christian world as a whole looks at this and still doesn't get it. They still don't understand that even the birthplace of your Messiah is desecrated in the name of Allah.
The West Bank, the last time it was part of a real state, it was the Ottoman Empire. It has been either in uncertain status as part of the Palestinian Mandate operated by Britain, being administered by Jordan for a time and then not. It's not as if there were a Palestinian state there that Israel had conquered in an aggressive war. Israel's wars have all been defensive anyway. They keep having to fight because they get attacked by, it's what happened except for Suez. It's what happened in 48, it's what happened in 67, it's what happened in 73. And each time they were attacked, they won and ended up, particularly after the 67 war, with some increased territory that they occupied.
Arab aggression and stubbornness has made the creation of a Palestinian state impossible. Since 1948, the Arab world has refused to come to terms with Israel's existence within any set of borders, and has maintained a state of war with Israel. With the invention of the Palestinian people, Arab aggression and Islamofascism gained a political and moral pretense. The Arab fascists appeared to the world to be pursuing a noble effort of protecting a mistreated and oppressed minority group. Thus, the promotion of a two-state solution has radicalized and Nazified most Arabs, who now openly support Arab parties and politicians who call for violence against Jews and for the destruction of Israel. For there to be peace, most people believe that Israel must end its occupation of Palestinian land. The problem is that any Palestinian state, regardless of who rules it, will produce nothing but escalated violence, terror, and warfare in the Middle East. The recent handing over of Gaza by the Israeli government is an obvious example. With the creation of a Palestinian state, there would be a brief time while the world celebrates the outbreak of peace in the Middle East. But this new terrorist state alongside Israel would be a major step in the Arab war against Israel's existence. Once forced back to its 1967 borders, it would then again be 10 miles wide at its narrowest and susceptible to a new Arab war that would draw in the entire Muslim world in its quest to destroy Israel.
It is very difficult to take reasonable steps when you're dealing with a fanatic, totalitarian, genocidal enemy and have that regarded as anything other than weakness. Britain and France thought they were taking reasonable steps in the 1930s. Each time from 35 to 39, there was a crisis that the Nazis ginned up, and the Nazis, being genocidal fanatics, thought that each step was weakness, not reasonableness. I think that's the way Hamas and Hezbollah will interpret reasonableness, and therefore I think both have to be effectively, completely defeated.
So in many respects, the two-state solution has much in common with the Nazis' final solution. Just another solution for killing Jews.
The Nazis were rather enamored of Islam, and it continues to this day. And until Arab, Muslim, Palestinian children are denied their dose of Nazi fantasy, there can be no peace either in the Middle East or anywhere else in the Western world where Islamist fascism seeks to wreak havoc.
This month marks the 70th anniversary of the historic Declaration of the State of Israel. God's sovereign hand can be seen all over this land. Included in the celebrations is the opening of the American Embassy right here in Jerusalem. In honor of this celebration, PJTN is offering a special 70th anniversary package, which includes a captivating new book and an award-winning DVD. Israel Rising is a unique visual story of Israel's miraculous journey from unforgiving desert to thriving nation. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel foretold a future time in which the arid land of Israel would come alive for its people. Now this breathtaking book documents the fulfillment of this vision, as rarely seen photographs from the 1880s to the 1940s are juxtaposed with recent photos of the same locations. This book will inspire and captivate you as it illuminates Israel's foretold awakening in a new and unforgettable way. In addition, you'll receive the award-winning documentary, Israel Indivisible: The Case for the Ancient Homeland. This inspiring film examines the many political twists and turns that make Israel the world's most controversial nation. From Abraham and the Promise to the issues facing the Jewish state today, the film examines the historical, archaeological, legal, and biblical foundations for the modern state of Israel. This is a limited time offer for these two remarkable resources for just a one-time gift of $70 today. Your generous donation will help ensure that PJTN stays on the front lines and in the headlines of all the important issues facing Israel and our Jewish brethren. So please go to pjtn.org today. On my last visit to Israel, I had a chance to speak with Eve Yarrow, an actual resident of the West Bank area. Since the early 90s, she has made an impact as a passionate spokesperson of the right of Jews to live in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza. Eve presently hosts a weekly radio show on Israel National Radio with a global audience of Jews and non-Jews alike. She told me a chance encounter with a Muslim man who privately talked with her about his reservations of living under a Palestinian government.
I had many friends who lived in Gush Katif, in the Gaza communities that were destroyed in a very misguided search also for peace. We've seen that Gaza's really just become a terror state, and that the entire south of Israel now is being rocketed from that area, and we don't really have what to do short of a full-fledged war. But I went down to live that last summer before the expulsion. I went to live there with my kids. I wanted to be there for the people there. I was hoping it wouldn't happen and we could be there for the celebration. But in any way, I just wanted it wasn't my home that was being destroyed, even though my home is also on the chopping block in Judea. Who knows what it'll be. But I felt like, as a Jew, the strength of being a Jew is being part of a nation, a really big community, and being there for each other. So I stayed there, and I was in a hothouse one day where the cucumbers were already rotting on the vines. The farmers weren't coming to pick them because what was the point? They were getting kicked out of their homes in a couple of days. And I found myself alone with one of the Arab workers from one of the Arab communities in Gaza and nearby. And we started talking, because over the years I found it amazing at how honest they are with me when it's just the two of us. They're not afraid of me, even though I'm a settler, and I've heard the most incredible things from them. And this man, and I said to him, well, you must be happy. You know, a couple of days, this hothouse will be yours, the Jews will be gone. And he said, oh no. He said, the blessings on this land came with the Jews, and the blessings will leave with the Jews. And I looked at him and I said, how do you understand that when some of my co-religionists don't get that? And he said, I'm a man of faith. I see God's hand in things. He said, I was here before, and I know exactly what it's going to revert to. And on a personal level, he said, I'm not connected with the higher-ups or anything, so I'll probably lose my job. I'll have to be afraid. And if my wife or my kids get out of line, they'll easily be killed for no reason whatsoever, because there's no justice system or legal system here. He said, my Israeli employers treated me fairly. I always got a decent salary. I could hold my head up high because I was able to feed my family and make an honest living, and they treated me well. And if I needed a sick day, they would come visit my family if anything was wrong. He said, I was treated like a human being with them. He said, it's going to be awful now. He said, I'm not going to have any part in what happens here. I know it. And he said, so I said, so why didn't you say anything? He said, come on. They'll just kill me. And it was so, as a human being, I was heartbroken for him. Here's this man, he gets it, and he's stuck. I don't even know if he's still alive today.
That's our show for today, and I want you to know we appreciate hearing from you. Please send your comments and questions to comments@pjtn.org. The time to stand up is now, so get involved and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your elected officials. Let your leaders hear from you. Visit our website to learn more. Sign up to receive free newsletters, action alerts, daily blogs, and order our films to share with others. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, P.O. Box 682711, Franklin, Tennessee 37068. You can also support PJTN online. Visit pjtn.org or call 1-877-873-9020.
Anti-Semitism has reached epic proportions, and Israel is now surrounded by nations who seek its destruction. For Israel to lose just one battle would mean losing everything. As Christians, it is our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and Israel. PJTN needs your help to reach more Christians with this urgent message. Please visit our website to become a member today and order our award-winning documentaries. You must decide that you won't be silent. Sign up now at pjtn.org. God bless you, and thank you for your support and prayers.